Question from Justine.
I was actually just looking at my phone and I think I accidentally pressed that button. But I will ask the question anyway. You talk a lot about relating to God and or seeking, I guess, guidance from God, and I sometimes don't understand that because to me, I don't believe. I feel like I believe more in the universe as opposed to one specific thing, like God. Like I don't feel like God is a person to me, and I guess I feel anxiety sometimes thinking that I have to believe in this one person named God when to me he doesn't really exist, just the universe and energy exist. If that makes sense.
Where are you?
Currently?
Yes.
In my car.
No, what place? What city?
In Los Angeles, California.
Okay.
In Westwood.
And how many times have you heard me?
This is probably the 5th.
And why do you keep listening?
Because I'm interested and I feel that I want to understand more.
Good.
Because some things that you say resonate a lot and I really understand it and I get it. So I guess I keep listening because I want to find more of that.
Good. Have we ever met you?
I went one Friday into the Santa Monica location a couple weeks back. Yes.
And I saw you in person?
Yes.
And we interacted?
No. Just eye contact.
Okay. Good. So God is not the name of a person. Your name is Justine, my name is Premodaya. But when I talk about God, I'm not referring to another person with that name. So your name for God, your word, it's a code word. You're designated by a code word Justine. I'm designated by a code word Premodaya. When you're little, your parents are designated by the code words mom and dad. Different code words are used in different ways at different times by different people for different reasons, but they're all code words. A name is just a code word. It isn't anything meaningful. It might as well be anything. If we call a stove refrigerator, instead of deciding to call a stove stove, somewhere along the line someone invented the stove and it got named stove, but if it had gotten named refrigerator, it'd still be the same stove. And language, code words have this property that goes along with them of sticking. So once you name something, it kind of obscures the reality, because the mind likes words. Every mind likes words. So words become a problem in themselves, because you start to relate to the words just as much as to the what the words are referring to. And the code word God is a big problem for that reason. Exactly, and only that reason. Because it means different things to different people. Different people have used it different ways for different reasons at different times. When you say stove to a person born in California in the late 20th, early 21st century, they think of a rectangular box that is powered by electricity or gas and that has heating power. But if you said stove to a person born in the exact same place in 1750, they had the word, but it meant what we now call a furnace. It meant a wood stove. It's not an iron, not a metal box, it's an iron pot with a lid with wood in it that you light on fire with an open flame. And if you say stove to somebody who lives in a remote part of the world, what we consider in a remote part of the world, stove may mean a campfire. They don't have the word campfire for what we call a campfire. Their word is stove, what translates in our language to stove. This same set of complications happens with the code word God, only on a bigger scale. Because nobody gets too upset if there's disagreement about the definition of the word stove, but people seem to get real upset when there's discussion and any kind of disagreement or attempt to agree about the code word God. So that has to be diffused. When you listen to me, if you're interested in listening to me, you have to listen without reacting to the words, so that your mind doesn't spend the time agreeing and disagreeing. You have to kind of get what I mean, even if the word means something different to you.
That makes sense.
So your code word for God, let me take that in for a minute. Your code word for God, when I say God, that has a certain meaning in my mind. But when I say God, you have to translate that into your code word for God. Your code word for God is universe. Same thing. Now, other people hearing that, the word universe means something in one mind, something in another. But in your mind, because I'm talking to you, in your mind, universe is your code word for God. So somebody listening to you right now has to translate in their mind in the right way, so that they don't mistake what you're talking about for meaning what they mean when they say universe, because they may not mean what you mean, and probably don't. So it's very easy to get stuck on the words, and then it becomes a discussion about the meaning of the words, and it becomes even an argument about words. And I don't argue about words. So it has to be understood that when you say universe, you're not even talking about the standard definition, the scientific definition, which is something about space and matter and theories about what that's all about, when you say universe, you explained very clearly, although you may not have intended to have this meaning of it consciously, but nevertheless you were very clear that when you say universe, you mean God. What other people mean when they say God. That's your code word, universe. So if you had a longer history with me, if you heard me 50 times instead of 5, 60 times instead of 6, it would be impossible for you not to have heard me say, because I say it routinely and regularly, but in 5 or 6 times I may not have said it in a way you can hear it, that you're not to believe anything. So I'm glad to hear that you don't believe in God. I don't believe in God either. Any idiot can believe in God. Most idiots do. And most smart people do too. But believing is easy. It just means I heard it, and the easiest thing for me is just to go along with it. I don't actually know if it's true. I don't actually have any direct personal experience of it. I really can't say sincerely, yes, that's something I can see. That's something that's clear to me. But I'll just go ahead and believe it because it sounds okay enough. That's what believing means. Or the majority of people seem to believe it, so I'll just go along with that. And I don't advocate going along with anything. I advocate that you absolutely insist on knowing for sure. And the only way is to know for sure yourself. You can't take anyone's word for it. Anyone at all. That includes me. And anybody like me. And everybody else. Unless you can say, my experience tells me that this is factually so, it isn't very worthwhile. It doesn't do anything for you. It's costume jewelry, not the real thing. So if you keep listening to me, sooner or later you'll hear me say it again in a different way, that the real spiritual life, really being interested in knowing for real, has nothing to do with believing, and in fact requires that you stop believing. Because believing is accepting someone else's opinion. So when you say, I hear you talk about relating to God, and you ascribe that to me, and then you say next, all I know for sure, all I'm willing to accept based on my experience is that there's a universe, and I'm pretty sure about that, and I recognize that this universe is going on, and there's entities, and I seem to be one of them, and there's certainly others, and that's going on, and I kind of know that for sure. We're saying the exact same thing. You're using one form of language, one set of words, and I'm using a different one. But different code words is the only difference. We're saying the exact same thing. So you actually agree with me 100%. But then you say, I don't really want to believe, I'm feeling like the world or life or people kind of expect me to believe, and I'm not interested in just believing. That's great. If that's true, and it obviously is for you, that's why you're listening to me, because I'm against believing. I'm for your approach. That's why you agree with me. I'm for your approach. Don't believe it unless you know it's so, with your own eyes, with your own ears, with your own heart, with your own brain, with your own intelligence, with your own insight. Whatever the medium of knowing it, it has to be actual, not something you simply go ahead and say, okay, Sounds okay to me, fine. That's not good enough. That's for dummies. And the spiritual road is not for dummies. That's why there'll never be one of those series of books. Spirituality for Dummies will not be published. Everything else you can publish for dummies, but there won't ever be spirituality for dummies, because there's no way to dumb it down, because dumbing things down is just making them into beliefs. And the spiritual way is doing better than just beliefs. Beliefs are cheap. You change beliefs all through life. You believed one thing when you were 10, something else when you were 20, and something else when you're 40. And when you're 80, it'll be completely different again. And it's not that there isn't a level of how humans function that can rightly be called the level of belief, but it's just that that level doesn't mean much. It's easily changed. It changes all the time, and it's not very solid. If you look at the arbitrariness, then that's obvious. You were born where you were born, and a lot of your beliefs are because you were born in a certain place at a certain time in history. If you were born in China instead, you know that you would have a whole different set of beliefs. Beliefs are products of time and place. They're very, very like the wind. They don't have much actuality. They don't have any solidity. So when you do what the ordinary person does and place all your faith in beliefs, and you think life is about having the best possible beliefs, it's a house of cards. You're not on any kind of solid ground. So does that make it more clear for you?
It does, thank you. Yeah, it does.
So do you think you'll keep listening to me?
Yeah. I will.
So the next time we're in the same room, just let me know who you are.
Okay, I will.
Are you coming to the next Bhakti Yoga Shala, which is shortly?
Is it on a Friday?
Yes.
Then I most probably will.
This Friday. Friday the 10th? Friday the 6th. Today is Monday, Tuesday. I don't know what day it is. Today's Monday.
Monday the 2nd. Satsang is Friday the 6th at 8 p.m.
This Friday at 8 o'clock at Bhakti Yoga Shala.
Okay.
So if you make it, and I hope you will, just come say, hi, I'm Justine. And then I'll know who you are.
Thank you.
Because you're the kind of person I'm looking for. Someone who's not willing to be stupid. Someone who is completely not interested in shallow beliefs. Someone who really wants to know.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
Good. Question from Alessandro.
I meant to ask yesterday, but I had to go for a class. This is with regards to the spirituality and sexuality thing. I never asked this before because I guess I didn't really care before, but the
man goes on top.
Is there any actual corrosive or destructive kind of effect or negative, quote unquote, or anything along those lines of sexually relating with someone where there's no connection whatsoever, no intimacy, you don't care about anything except pleasure?
Remember I said there's going to be a part 2 to that discourse?
Yeah.
That's actually in part 2.
Okay, I'll wait.
So I could answer it now, but then I'm upstaging my own discourse.
Well, it gives you more time to speak about more stuff for me.
So it's definitely in part 2. Whether or not there'll have to be a part 3 remains to be seen, because if I don't get to that question in part 2, then there'll have to be a part 3, but I suspect that it'll be covered in part 2. Even though I don't know what I'm going to say, I'm pretty sure it'll be covered.
Okay.
In the meantime,
On top.
who else? I said, who else?
I think I have a question.
But you know I have an answer.
Hold on. Hey, Quinn. I'm showing multiple audio sources from you, so if you can mute yourself down to 1, then that'll reduce and get rid of an echo. Let's see what we can do.
Either that or we're hearing the voices in Quinn's head, which sometimes reverberate.
I'm going to skip my question for now, see if I can figure this out and come back.
Okay. In the meantime, we'll talk about you. Who else? Then we'll get back to the Q man.
Trying to think of where to start. Last week
Start at the top, like sex.
Start on the top. Okay. Last week
Way down.
Last week I had a tremendous experience of gratitude, and it came about because I was feeling sad and lonely one day, and I realized that underneath that was this very unconscious belief that this was not the way things should be, that something had gone wrong, that God didn't love me in some way. And I wasn't even aware that I was thinking that, but when I looked at it carefully, it was there, and I started looking at the evidence, and I realized there's no evidence of that at all. So there's only evidence that God loves me because I'm here, I have this life, I've found my guru, I have beautiful family, I feel like I've been gifted so many things. And so, yeah. I think that was like the first experience of like that much gratitude. I feel like since then, I've been much more in my heart, and just having interesting experiences of being very acknowledged or valued by others. I also feel a lot more energy in my body, and especially today, actually. Today I actually felt like something physically entered me somehow during the meditation. It actually knocked my head back a little bit.
That was just me.
What was that?
Me.
I mean, okay.
Me. Doesn't require any explanation. Me.
Okay. So yeah, I guess I just wanted to express gratitude and just tremendous love.
Good. That's a breakthrough. Keep having breakthroughs. And when the crises come, use them to have bigger breakthroughs. But don't get caught in the foam.
The foam is in the experience.
The foam as in the dirty part on the surface that doesn't really have much to offer. Everybody's been to the water, to the ocean on a clear day, and you go right up to the shoreline and there's this foamy part. It's got kind of dirt in it and debris, and it's bubbly, and it's just crap floating around. It's the most superficial part. It's the surface on the surface. It's not even, you don't even think of it when you're looking at it as part of the ocean, part of the water. You just think of it as crap on top that kind of congeals and bubbles and makes foam, makes very foamy. It doesn't even have substance, the degree of water. It's just foamy. Mm-hmm. If you do like that with your hand on it, it kind of disperses. It's not much to it. So the thought you described, I was thinking that God doesn't love me. The mind is full of mind foam. That's an example of foam. So you got to be able to distinguish the water from the foam from the ocean, and see when it's just random nonsense thoughts that the mind likes to generate that just is debris on the surface and not get caught up in it. You want to dive into the ocean, you don't hang out and play with the foam. So you have to start recognizing what's foamy thoughts and what's a real thought, and know the difference. And to get involved with foamy thoughts is just playing around in the mud.
Yeah, I feel like I've been able to see that more clearly over time. So I'll continue to be aware.
Over time. Met me 8 weeks ago. Over time. Well, you do that over time. Yeah, I was feeling sad and lonely were your first words, which is also the first words to a Burt Bacharach song, so apparently you've spoken. That's mind phone. You probably weren't very sad and you probably weren't very lonely, but mind phone. But you started playing around in it. It's not so much for you, everybody does this. Everybody has to hear this, that there's mind foam that you are wasting your time with. If you want to go ocean diving, don't play with the foam, go ocean diving. You want to go whale watching, don't look at the foam. That's all stuff that can be just dismissed easily if you learn to distinguish what's foam and not get needlessly concerned with it. Now, the conventional person, the ordinary life, that's all about playing in the foam and thinking it's very meaningful. Every emotion has to be analyzed from every angle and made the most out of. Every thought is important because it's my thought.
And reflecting back on it, I think the reason I was playing around in it is because it kept on recurring. I mean, it kept on coming back, even though I knew it wasn't true. And maybe I didn't.
You've seen how the foam comes in like the tide. It's a mini tide. Recedes, comes back, recedes, comes back. So the fact that it comes back is just as meaningless. Just because it comes back doesn't mean it's important. When the toilet overflows, it doesn't mean the shit that spews out's more important. That's coming back too.
Yeah. I guess once I saw the underlying thought that kept it coming back, I felt like that inquiry was useful because now it doesn't come back anymore. Once I saw the underlying thought that there's something in me that feels
doesn't
something
come back because I'm the plumber.
So it was you that brought about that.
I'm Rotoguru.
Somehow that's not a pleasant image. Thank you.
You're welcome. We're always available for your plumbing needs. So the first experience of real gratitude is one of the biggest breakthroughs you'll ever have. So good for you. Just took a few weeks. Takes decades for most people, but they don't have rotoplumber. Okay? Okay.
Thank you.
Quinn's stopped hearing voices.
Yes, we're all good for Mr. Q.
Well, that's a big assumption. I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to go that far.
This question is actually about my voices. You guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Don't worry about whether we hear you. If we don't, we'll tell you we don't hear you.
yes, sir. So every time I use the word I, it is fundamentally a false statement. Because the I is a series of beliefs, programs, and ideas.
They deal with that in
So-
certain Hindu traditions by referring to themselves only in the third person.
I mean, that would be way more accurate. That would actually be accurate, and using, every time you use the word I, it's just,
They use the third person. Quinn is hungry. Quinn is leaving now. Quinn has to go to work. Quinn is going to take a nap. They never say I. But remember, I is a code word. You can change the meaning of code words. You can decide what the right definition is for you.
okay, so I don't have to use everybody else's definition of that phrase, I, and even when somebody refers to themselves, even if somebody says to themselves, I, then
Well, yes.
I can,
What you're saying is you would like to use the word I to mean not I. So you can make that your definition for yourself, that every time you hear your mouth say the word I, you hear not I. You know the definition. So this is easy. But it takes a while to get used to. You have to adapt. When you adopt a new definition and a completely new definition, then the mind takes a while to adapt to it. So it's a little bit strenuous in the beginning, but then you have formed the new habit. And when you say I, you feel it inside as it means not I. And who cares what other people think it means? They know what you mean by I, good enough. It's just a code word in society referring to designation Quinn. It's just utilitarian.
and would you recommend this, Premodaya? Would you like this shifting of my like how I interpret this?
I recommend you learn to pronounce your guru's name correctly. Premodaya, not Premodaya.
Premodaya.
You got it, Kwan. No, I don't recommend it. I am offering you possibilities if you'd like to play around with it. I recommend that you do what you feel helps you for real. And if those methods help you, what's the problem? Try them out. But the real recommendation is to not get caught up in words. Is to really, really see that words are just surface. They're very important. They are needed by human beings. But they're not the spiritual language. In the spiritual life, the language is silence. In spiritual life, the words are less useful than in everyday life, material life. In material life, there'd be a lot of trouble without words. And in understanding each other, words actually both help and prevent understanding. It's a mixed bag. But in spiritual life, words are secondary. Words are just part of the societal necessity. But in the real spiritual life, the words aren't what it's about. So that's what I recommend, is that you learn the language of silence. Is that you become aware enough and sensitive enough that the wind can teach you, that the stars can show you, that the trees can guide you, that the animals can love you. All those other entities aren't using words. To not be stuck in words the way the conventional average person is, goes to war because of words, is ready to kill you because of words, gets insulted and is ready to do violence on you because they're insulted by your words. Can you imagine how primitive and idiotic that is? You haven't even done anything except said some words and they attack you. The words aren't even a threat. You've just called somebody a name. You haven't even threatened them with anything. You've just called them an idiot. And they're ready to hit you and scream and jump up and down and turn colors. I recommend that you not be to any degree caught up in that kind of nonsense. And because you don't act like the really stupid ones do, you think you're better than that. My recommendation is don't see yourself as better than that, because you're doing the same thing on a more sophisticated level. So, do I recommend those things? No, I recommend doing what you think is right. So if you think those are right, great, do them. But the real recommendation is don't be 1 minute more caught up in the delusions of words to the degree that we tend to be, not 1 minute more than you have to be. Free yourself of that false understanding that words somehow have a deeper meaning than they actually do. They're just utilitarian code. It's just so that you can get the sandwich you want, not a different one. Everything meaningful that ever happens and that you ever experience is beyond the words. The taste of the sandwich is not in the words. Good enough? Okay.
Thank you.
Arvada is next.
I feel like I've woken up from a dream, and it's related to how you've been instructing me for a while now to indict my parents. And
you know, if you moved to Mexico, to Ensenada, and ate a Mexican diet, you could say, I'm Arvada having a tostada in Ensenada.
I could. I don't know what else I would do in Mexico, but I could do that. That adds some color.
Which is all very, very cool for a person from Canada.
True too. Anyway, I'm just having the experience of being a little disoriented, well, quite disoriented, but very grateful because based on sort of what was being said yesterday at the workshop and about how much I've been pretending to be a person that has no relationship to whoever I actually am. And I'm not even sure I see the totality of all that pretending, but I'm seeing a significant chunk of it that I never saw before. And it's kind of amazing. And it was just a report because waking up and or feeling like I'm waking up from a dream, the last 34 years or 35 years of life having been a dream, and that I've been pretending to be a person that I am not actually. It's just quite...
Well, that's the I Quinn is objecting to, that pretense.
Mm.
So you and Quinn are talking about the same thing.
Mm.
Except he's complaining and you're glad.
Well, it's a relief to not be that person, whatever that is. It's very freeing and
Well, it's the not I that Quinn is interested in.
Mm. Thank you.
Not I, Ada.
Yeah. Thank you.
Amy has a question.
This words thing is really, because words, this body is, I feel, really good at picking the right words. Not the right words, but just picking words in general to ascribe to sensations and feelings and things that I can offer up to others, like people that I love, and help them.
It's not as important as you think.
Right?
It's not as important as you think.
Yeah, that's true. But it's my chosen sort of career and life path, and I don't know if I can sincerely be a spiritual person and still live and support myself in that way.
How do you support yourself in that way?
Pardon?
How do you support yourself in that way?
Editing, writing.
You get paid for writing?
I'm working on it. I got paid for writing and editing at the magazine this summer. The more I get involved, the more I love it, and I just love the craft of choosing and thinking and sorting and
So there's no reason, if you can and want to make your living at it, there's no reason not to. But when I say it's not important, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your idea that that's how you love other people. That's how you have the idea that's how you help your friends.
And so think I'm a very great friend or a good person, I don't have that to offer.
Right, that's an idea. And sooner or later you'll have to see if it's true or not. So I'm preparing you for that by telling you the first piece of bad news. It's not as significant as you think. And that's all I'm going to say, because that's really bad news for you. And I don't want to make a difficulty. I just want to start the process of you seeing yourself more accurately. Not this view. I only have this little bit to give and nothing else. So I am going to try to take that away. The little you think you have, the little you feel you have, I'm going to try to take it away from you. And I just started.
Take it all.
It won't be that easy. But I appreciate the intention of cooperation. None of it's bad, but it'll feel bad. It's all good. It's all good, but it won't feel good.
It's okay.
Good.
Feeling bad will kill me.
Feeling bad what?
Feeling bad
Won't kill you. That's right. And it's just a continuation of how you've always felt. So I'm going to take that away too. Roto Guru, flush everything away. So we got your most recent email, which does fulfill the requirement for the application letter. So your application is now in process, and we'll get back to you with the response.
Thank you.
But I never try to take away how someone makes their living. I just take away what is not good for you. Which amounts to almost everything except how you make a living.
No, get it. That's okay.
I don't screw around with how you make a living, because sometimes you pay me. And I need to make a living.
Is that sincere?
But if I didn't need to make a living and you didn't pay me, it wouldn't be any different. Okay? Who else? Hollywood Squares. Paul Lind for the win. I didn't see that. I was busy joking. Tor. Circle gets the square. Tor.
Go ahead, Tor.
Yeah, so I wanted to elaborate on what I said yesterday, which is in the last few months, I went from being in a extremely ecstatic state.
Why do you want to elaborate? Why? What's your goal for why you're elaborating?
Maybe to get an answer.
Okay, so just ask it as a question and don't elaborate. Make it shorter. Make it a single question instead of a whole story.
I went from feeling very ecstatic.
Same story, same story. Change it into a 1 or 2 sentence question. I don't need the backstory. That's foam.
Well, it was going to be one sentence.
Okay.
It was almost done.
Okay.
So I went from that to a more...
Why isn't it done yet? You promised it was almost done and it's not. Go
I feel
ahead.
like I've relapsed. That's all.
You feel like you've relapsed? Is that what you said?
Yes.
That's nice. I thought you were going to ask a question.
Why is that, do you think?
I don't think you have. It's all mind foam. For the last 3 months I felt this way. For the last 2 months I feel this way. I'm worried that next month I'm going to feel that way. My suggestion is the following. Get a job. Any job. Right away. So that you're not spending every day playing in the phone. You're wasting your time. Get a job. There's nothing wrong with what you're doing. It's what people at your age do. But you belong to me, so I want you to do better. Get a job.
Got it.
Then you won't have time to be deciding that you've relapsed. To relapse, you got to lapse first. Nothing's going on, nothing's going wrong. When you don't have a job, you're all over the map. That's what's going on. You're all over the map. That's not a relapse, that's a map-apse. So don't be half-apsed. Get a job. Make some money so you can feel solid.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Word up.
I just hate the application process.
I hate having to get up in the morning.
So do I.
We're very alike. We are very alike.
That's all. Thank you.
You're welcome. And if you don't get a job, then your Torah spelled backwards. Wait for it. That's right. Who else? Don't whisper.
If no one else is going to ask you.
No, not you. I was talking to the technicians.
Technicians are whispering this from in the room.
Yeah, don't whisper. Everybody don't whisper.
I was just saying go up.
Oh, you're talking to him?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking to them. Okay. Well, let's give a chance. Let's see if anybody else has anything to ask or report or express. Sometimes people need a little time for it to get expressible. You should work on the lighting to get rid of these shadows behind me, because it looks like I have Dumbo the elephant ears. You need to hold up the sign longer than that when I'm being silly. Alana. Because I can't read and be silly at the same time. Which is why I can't read most of the time.
I was just thinking about how I wanted to get more clear about the question that I wanted to ask, and I just realized that I feel like I've had this strong, like, I want, and then I can't finish the sentence, and I feel kind of, I feel consumed by desire, but it feels aimless, and I'm tired of the wanting. But at the same time, when I'm feeling wanting the Guru and wanting to be more present and closer to you, maybe like the constructive desire, but it just feels like there's just a lot of desires going on.
So don't make it a problem.
Okay.
Desires have been going on your whole life. Now you're deciding it's a problem all of a sudden, because your circumstances have changed and you've got a lot on your mind and time on your hands. So you can start deciding things are problems that weren't problems before, even though they haven't changed.
Okay.
That's creating foam where there isn't any.
Splash, splash.
So you could splash a little bit, but don't turn it into a real foam bath.
Okay.
And as long as the higher desire is there, there's no problem. Then the more insignificant desires, even if they're strong, can be allowed and don't have to rule your life. In fact, they may be good. They may represent energy coming back to life a little more after getting knocked down. I don't know, but it certainly could be. It sounds like it is, actually.
It feels true.
So don't indulge the tendency to worry about anything that's noticed. Just keep noticing, and then you'll see what it's about. And you're showing up much more regularly, you're attending ICODA events much more regularly, you're listening to me much more regularly, so don't let your mind make problems out of non-problems. If you are more with me in any way, then your mind reacts to that, wants to sabotage that when it notices that's happening, that it isn't just for a week or two. Your mind wants to sabotage that and create all kinds of new problems for you to be distracted by. So you'll go back to being an infrequent flyer. So be aware that that happens for everyone too. But it's also your personal life habit to call something a problem, whether it is or not, and that habit has to change. To worry, to get worried about something and analyze it for about a month or two, and then get distracted by something else and you forgot all about it and it never got resolved because it was never a problem in the first place. You just moved on to the next fake problem. Life has enough real problems. Stop getting concerned with fake ones.